Ahoy folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. So today we're going to take another look at the Zealot, and this is the build I like to use every now and again because it's just fun. Good, clean fun. And let's jump in and take a look at it, shall we? So, you may not have seen me use this on stream before. Game, are you working? Okay, we're working, cool. And that is the Crusher. And it's just a hilarious weapon to use. I haven't quite finished leveling mine, but the perks and blessings are all where they need to be. I just need to empower it slightly more. So, why the Crusher? Well, as I said, it's just good, clean fun, and also it's really, really good for just staggering the absolute hell out of everything. The stagger breakpoints on this thing are just dirty. So, how do you want to build the Crusher? Well, kind of like this. Again, my dump stat is defense, because what's the best defense, folks? That's right. Unwavering attack and assault. You don't need to defend if they're dead. So, that is why defense is our dump stat. As for the perks, we are going for Flak and Carapace. As I keep saying in every goddamn video, Flak is the most prevalent armor type in the game, so this is going to give us a real nice plus 25% damage to most enemies. Unarmored enemies are going to be torn to pieces by this anyway, so we don't need to buff that. And as for Carapace, we're taking that to mostly deal with Crushers. As I was going back and forth between Carapace and Unyielding. At the moment, I think Carapace is winning out, but your mileage may vary. So if you'd prefer Unyielding, then of course go for Unyielding, but I advise Carapace. So next up, the blessings. First of all, we're going for Skull Crusher. The target receives 4 stacks of plus 10% damage if already staggered, lasts 5 seconds. So we're getting 40% extra damage off of this, and as the Crusher is a stagger machine, everything is going to be staggered. And next up, we have finally been given access to Thunderous on this weapon. As before Locked and Loaded, we did not have access to this. As you can see, mine's only tier 3, as I said, haven't finished leveling up. But Thunderous is ridiculous. And let's have a look at the actual tier 4 so I can give you the correct numbers. Where is it? There it is. The game has been very slow today for some reason. I think something bad's going to happen later. Right. Thunderous. Hitting an enemy gives them 4 stacks of 2.5% brittleness. Debuff lasts 5 seconds. And can have a maximum of 16 stacks. Again, brittleness is just rending that you apply to a target. So rending is applied to you. Brittleness is what you apply to a target. But it's basically just rending. That's all it is. And this is going to give us a big pile of damage. It really is. And I'll get the actual number for you here. That is going to give us another 40% damage, basically. So from these 2 buffs, we're getting 80% extra damage just from staggering and hitting. So it's very, very powerful. I mean, I do miss using Slaughter and Thrust, but Thunderous and Skull Crusher just really do eke out the damage. I mean, I wish we could have used Opportunist as well, but that's only a flat 25. But when we can actually build Thunderous up pretty quickly, it kind of overshadows it. But, you know, obviously, if you enjoy using the other ones, you know, give them a try. I'm just trying to give you the slim down, right to the knuckle cut of how much DPS we can eke out of these. So, that is the Crusher. We'll get on more to it in a minute. We're just going to go through the rest of the weapons. So, next up, we're using the Spearhead Bolt Gun. Now, again, I'm going to give you 2 options for ranged weapons here. If you don't like the Bolt Gun, and honestly, I hated the bolt gun for so very long because it was terrible. It was awful. But with Unlocked and Loaded, they've finally gotten around to completely overhauling how it works. And it's an actual joy to use now, and it's just insanely good for quickly clearing a mixed horde or taking down anything in armor or monstrosities. The amount of damage you can lay down on this is just stupidly high, and I hope they don't nerf it. But we are taking Inspiring Barrage instead of another damage dealing blessing, because this is going to be our emergency way of being able to farm back toughness incredibly quickly if we need to. But for the moment, let's look at the modifiers. So I have got this one, and it is the dump stat is reload speed. After much testing, I would highly recommend using mobility as your dump stat, not reload speed. As I've been testing this for a couple of days now. The lack of mobility on the bolt gun isn't as prevalent as the lack of reload speed. So definitely switch mobility and reload speed out, guys, because you'll have a much nicer time. I just can't find my bolt gun that I have switched out. I may have accidentally sold it. Let's not dwell on that. Anyway, so the bolt gun, they've improved it. It no longer works like you're trying to wrestle a greased up puppy. You can actually aim with it. You can aim down sights, and you can pretty much get any sniped target you need by aiming down sights. I mean, I am a terrible shot with this, but, you know, it's not quite as accurate as the revolver, but it will do in a pinch. And what it does have over the revolver is the fact you can mag dump into things and make them all go away. So, perk-wise, we're going with Flak and Unyielding. Again, most prevalent armor type, Unyielding to deal with boss monsters. This is going to be one of your best ways of laying down damage to bosses. Just keep mag dumping into them until they stop wiggling. Now, for the blessings, we're using Fire Frenzy. Gain 10% close damage for 3.5 seconds after killing an enemy at close range, stacking 5 times. Mag dumping into a horde in front of you, you're going to get about 50% extra damage. Now, I touched on Inspiring Barrage before, but we are taking that instead of another damaging buff because, one, the breakpoints on this thing are really easy to meet, and with Inspiring Barrage, this is just going to give you a nice, consistent way to farm back the toughness if you have to. But I did say I was going to give you 2 options. So if the bolt gun still isn't your jam, you can always go for the braced autogun. Now, the braced autogun has been improved vastly as well. More damaging, less sway, all round just a good time. For the modifiers, as you can see, mobility is the dump stat on this as well because screw mobility. Perks, we're going for Flak and Unyielding, same as the bolt gun, for the same reasons. And the blessings wise, again, we're going for Inspiring Barrage and Fire Frenzy, the exact same blessings as the bolt gun. This is just going to give you a slightly different way to achieve that goal. It reloads a lot quicker, and you can just charge down things while you're firing it, or you can hold back brace, and it will do quite reasonable damage. Obviously not quite as much damage as the bolt gun, but you are getting other benefits from using this, as in you can move faster, you reload faster, it doesn't take as long to switch to it. So if you have a need for speed, I would take the Agrippina braced autogun, or if you want just disgusting, overwhelming power, take the bolt gun. They're both very good. I'd say it's personal choice, really. And now for the Curios. All 3 are exactly the same. We are taking toughness with max health, max toughness, and damage resistance gunners. We are going for pure defense on these. We're not taking any combat ability regeneration, we're not taking any toughness regeneration, and we're not taking any stamina. We are taking big slabs of defense. Now, this is going to give us a much easier time doing our job, which is being in the thick of things and in the back lines, knocking the hell out of everything. And for that, all we really need is just health and toughness. Damage resistance gunners, as always, because gunners are disgusting and they will ruin your day if you're caught out in the open, especially on Damnation or in any Auric mission. They have toned them down a little bit, but they are still very overpowered. So just keep an eye out for that, and just be aware of your positioning to, gunners. Try and close the gap as quickly as you can. If you can't, seek shelter, shoot at them. But yeah, all 3 of them are exactly the same, even though this one has a lower rating. God, the Curio rating just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. But yeah, that's how the Curios are set up. Now, for the talents. We'll start over here on the right. We're going for Backstabber, plus 20% damage on melee backstab hits. Scourge, melee critical hits apply bleed, causing damage over time. Melee hits on bleeding targets grant 10% critical chance for 3 seconds, stacks 3 times. So crits apply bleed, bleed apply crits. Lovely vicious circle of damage. Next up, Enduring Faith, plus 50% damage reduction on critical hit for 4 seconds. Second Wind, replenish 15% toughness on a successful dodge. This is going to be a very high crit build. As you can see, we're going for all of the crit modifying nodes. And now for the middle. Anointed in Blood, up to 25% base range damage, reduced the further you are from the target. Purge the Unclean, plus 20% increased damage against infested and unyielding. This is going to really help with your boss damage. Restoring Faith, on taking damage, heal 20% of that damage over 4 seconds. And then we're going to be grabbing Immolation Grenade, my favourite grenade, into Toughness damage reduction, down into Dance of Death, minus 75% spread and 50% recall for 3 seconds on successful dodge. By Wrath, be swift. Enemy melee attacks cannot stun you. On taking damage, you gain 15% movement speed for 2 seconds. Then over here for melee damage into movement speed, and we're grabbing Duelist. Plus 50% weak spot and critical hit damage for 3 seconds on successful dodge. Until Death, fatal damage instead grants you invulnerability for 5 seconds, occurs every 2 minutes, or can only occur every 2 minutes. Holy Revenant, when Until Death ends, you regain health based on the damage you dealt during Until Death, to a maximum of 25% maximum health. Melee damage dealt heals for 3 times that amount. Again, it's not 3 times 25, it's just 3 times the amount to get to 25. It's worded quite badly. Then Benediction, 15% toughness damage reduction for unit allies and coherency. Into Toughness, into Faithful of the Fury. Oh, Fury of the Faithful, sorry. God damn, I can't read. Dash forward, replenishing 50% toughness and gaining 20% attack speed for 10 seconds. Your next melee hit gains plus 25% damage and is a guaranteed critical hit. Then we're taking Redoubled Zeal for 2 charges. And then down into Suppression dealt. It's absolutely awful. Punishment, melee attacks that hit at least 3 enemies grant 5% impact strength for 5 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Maximum stacks gain uninterruptible. Now, this is one of the first times this node is actually important to us, because, again, impact is just stagger. So, stagger you apply to a target. Impact, strength is applied to you to do more stagger. So it's like rending in that way. So yeah, impact strength just gives you more ability to stagger, and with the Crusher, that's a very, very good thing. Then into movement speed, and then we're picking up Invocation of Death, plus 200% ability cooldown regeneration for 4 seconds on melee critical hits. We're stacking a lot of crit in this build, so that's going to help us with the charges. Then Blazing Piety, plus 15% critical hit chance for 8 seconds when in Fury. Fury is triggered when 25 enemies have died within 25 meters. Then Fury Rising, critical hits also count up towards triggering Fury. And Righteous Warrior, 10% critical hit chance from Blazing Piety. So lots and lots of crit. So with all that lovely crit, all of this is going on. Plus the dodging is going to make us just more survivable. It's a pretty simple build, to be honest. I mean, just you have to get a little bit used to the Crusher. It works kind of like a Thunderhammer. You know, you power it up, then you bonk them on the face. Obviously, you want to try and get stacks of Skull Crusher and Thunderous up first. And then you just go around bonking people. So, light attacks mostly be for crowd control situations. They're very quick, have a nice attack pattern to them. And as you can see, it really does bowl over most things. But if you've got something like a mutant or a rager, turn on the old bonking power and watch them fly. And then for the heavier targets, well, you'll be using heavy attacks. I mean, you can use light attacks to apply more stacks of Thunderous and get Skull Crusher rolling. And then try and finish them off with heavy attacks just to break them. It really isn't that fiddly to get used to. The build is quite self-explanatory and quite fluid, which is what I enjoy about it. It's just a nice fast-paced, heavy-hitting bonk build. The damage isn't quite as insane as the Thunderhammer, but it's far more versatile than the Thunderhammer. Even with the very nice improvements the Thunderhammer has had, this weapon is still more versatile than it. Like, I would say the Thunderhammer is definitely usable these days, but it's not quite as fun as the Crusher. And of course, don't forget you have your immolation grenade, which you just lob into a big pile of monsters and watch them burn. So don't forget to use it. And of course, our charge. Guaranteed critical hit as you're charging. Well, when you charge, your first hit afterwards does 25% more damage and is a guaranteed critical hit. So it's always a good way to start off with your opener to be a charge just to get that damage rolling. And of course, the more we crit, the more cooldown we get on our charge ability. And I'm just going to showcase what I mean when I say the bolt gun is very good for mag dumping. If you're very new to the game, you might not know what I mean by this. So when I say mag dumping, I mean there is a lot of crushes coming towards you. You just hold down left button. And you make the bad man go away. It is a horrific waste of ammo, but it's also hilarious. Shut up, Stephanie. But in all seriousness, in close situations where you're being overwhelmed in corridors, which happens a lot, if you can't find a space or it is not feasible for you to just run in there and start whacking, this is going to be your lifeline. It has inspiring barrage on it, which gives you back your toughness, and also, as I said, it makes the bad men go away. Obviously, when you get better at using it, you want to be aiming a little bit higher for the head, but as you are getting used to it, body shots are absolutely fine. Do be aware, though, the bulwark will block your first few shots, but you can stagger him enough that he opens his shield. It will just take you an entire mag to do it most of the time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 to 5 shots to get him to open his shield. But it is possible. This is your lifeline and your monstrosity cleaner. If you cannot get close to it, for example, Beasts of Nurgle or Plague Ogrings, they do have quite a wide area of denial around them. So if you're knocked away or just can't close that gap, your bolt gun or the Agrippina braced auto gun is what you're going to be using to help bring them down. I mean, best case scenario, you just get in there and obviously bonk them and do all that fun stuff, but that's not always the case. But there you go, folks. Before I ramble on entirely about all this, all the mechanics, I shall leave it there for you. So I really do hope you enjoy the build, and if you have, please do like, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. It really does help us out. And I shall see you all for the next one. So until then, take it easy, and I'll see you later.